And so far, we defined the term demand, definition of demand. We have also outlined the factors or determinants of demand. We also studied the demand schedule. We also, on the basis of the demand schedule, we learned how to draw the demand curve, and we also stated the law of demand, All these we have covered in our previous videos as far as demand analysis is concerned. Today, we want to look at another aspect of demand, which is the movement along the demand curve. Movement along the demand curve. Remember, we say that a demand curve is a curve that slopes downward from left to right. It has a negative slope. That is what we saw last time. In drawing the demand curve, we say that the y-axis, on the y-axis we have the price of commodities, then on the x-axis we have the quantity demanded, and we saw that a demand curve slopes downward from left to right, like that, right? That is the demand curve, DD. Okay, that is what we covered last time. We say that the demand curve slopes downwards from left to right, which means it has a negative slope. Thus, the quantities demanded increase with decrease in prices, while the demand decrease with the increase in prices, and that is in line with the law of demand. Remember, the law of demand states that the higher the price, the lower the quantity that will be demanded, and the lower the price, the higher the demand, That is the law of demand. The tendency for the quantity demanded to be low when price is high, and the tendency of the goods demanded to be high when the price is low is what we are terming as the law of demand. So that you can see here, assuming the price is at that point, which is, say, P. At P, you'll have the demand down here like that, this will be Q. So at P, price P, the quantity demanded will be Q. So that is the position. That is the position. But remember, we are discussing movement along the demand curve. Movement along the demand curve. So this is, say, point X. So when there are, remember in our discussion of the determinants of the of demand, we say that there are many factors that determine the goods that may be demanded. One of which is price. Number two, we mentioned government policy. We mentioned the income of individuals. We mentioned the price of related products, and so on and so forth. Okay, but we are talking about when the price is at P, then the quantity demanded will be at Q. But assuming there is an increase in price, to say P1. This is, say, P1. At P1, you can see the quantity demanded reduces to Q1. When you increase price, when you increase your price of a product, then the quantity demanded will decrease. That is the effect of the increase in price. When you increase the price, then the quantity demanded will reduce. That is the law of demand. The higher the price, the lower the quantity that are demanded. So you see, now when there is a change, in price, then there is a movement. There is this movement from Q. There is this movement from X. This movement from X to Y. This movement from X to Y. This is X and this is Y. There is movement along the demand curve. Because of the increase in price, then there is movement from X to Y. Okay? There may be also, assuming there is a decrease in price from P to P2. P to P2, you can see again there is another movement. This movement there from Q to Q2. When there is a reduction in price from P to P2, then you can see again there is a shift from X to Z. From X to Z, this point. Okay? There is a movement. When you reduce the price of a commodity, then there will be a shift along the demand curve from X to Z, because a decrease in price, in the price of a commodity, will lead to increase in quantity. Because there is an increase from Q to Q1. So that is what we are talking about, movement along the demand curve. You can see there is movement either when there is an increase in price or when there is decrease in price. When there is an increase in price, there is movement along the demand curve from point X to point Y. But in the event that there is a decrease in price from P to P2, then you can see there is movement along the demand curve from X to Z. That's what we mean by movement along the demand curve, movement along the demand curve. So that is very important for you to note. Then you can again look at shift in demand curves. Shift in demand curves. That was movement along the demand curve. We can also have a scenario where there is shift in demand curves. Shift in demand curves. So what do we mean by shift in demand curves? Just to remind you, in our previous lessons, we discussed the determinants of demand, and we say that there are many factors that determine the demand of goods in the market. One is the price of the commodity. Number two, you gave other examples like the income of individuals. For example, we say that when an individual's income increases, then he has spending power. Then such an individual will demand more goods in the market. We talked about the weather conditions. When there is, for instance, rain, or when there is rain, then the demand for umbrellas will go up. So shift in demand curves will occur when there are changes in other factors other than price. All right? For example, the factors that I've mentioned, when there is change, so that there is a shift, these demand curves changes. So there are two scenarios. This demand curve can shift to the right or to the left. So when it shifts to the right, it means that there is an increase in demand. When there is a shift to the left, then that would mean that there is a decrease in demand. So we can also illustrate what I've just said. Shift in demand curves. Shift in demand curves. Now, assuming this is the original demand curve, assuming that's the original demand curve, DD, the original demand curve, DD, and on the y-axis you have price, and here there is quantity. That is the original demand curve. So this demand can shift to the right. All right, can shift to the right. Like this. Shift to the right, so that we have D1. So you can see here there is an increase. This would mean that there is an increase in demand because you can see the price has not changed. See, the price has not changed. Assuming the price is at P here, you can see the original demand curve, the quantity will be at that point, Q. But where there is an increase in demand, assuming it is demand for umbrellas, the price is still the same, but you can see here the quantity has gone up to Q1. The price remaining the same, but there is a shift. There is a shift to the right. Shift to the right would mean that there is an increase in demand, like in this case. At the original price, the demand is at Q, but still at the same price because of other factors that have affected the demand for this product. Other factors like government policy, price of related products, and so on and so forth. So there will be a shift to the right. And assuming even the price is at this point, you see there is still an increase in quantity. So that is a shift to the right, and that one will show that there is an increase in demand occasioned by other factors than price, because you can see the price is still constant, but the demand, they are at 2 different points. So that is one illustration. There can be a scenario again where there is a decrease. You can illustrate it where there is a decrease in demand. When there is a decrease in demand, assuming now again this is the original.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show
The original demand curve. Push it somewhere there. Original demand curve. D, price, that side, price, you have quantity on the x-axis. Now, this, assuming this is the original demand curve, there can also be a shift to the left, a shift to the left, like that, shift to the left, like that. This is say D2, D2. When there is a shift to the left, would mean that there is a decrease in demand. Decrease in demand due to other factors other than price. Other factors other than the price. And you can see here, the price being constant, and this being the original demand curve. There is a P there, and we have Q here. Okay, the price. But where there is a shift, a reduction in demand, then you can see at the same price, the quantity demanded has gone down. The quantity demanded has gone down. Why? Because of other factors other than demand. There are many factors that will reduce the quantity demanded in the market apart from price. So the price may be the same, but there will be a shift in this curve if there are other factors that have affected demand. So that's what we refer to as shift in demand curve. So the demand curves can either shift to the right, like that. That one has shifted to the right, or it can shift to the left, like that. That one has shifted to the left. So that's what we mean by shift in demand curve. I hope that is quite clear. We say that, I repeat, there are two scenarios where the demand curve can shift. It can either shift to the right, meaning that there is an increase in demand. And I've illustrated here, there is an increase in demand even when the price is still constant, because there are other factors that affect demand of goods in the market. Then there is another scenario where the demand curve can shift to the left. When there is a shift to the left, that would mean that the demand for goods in the market has reduced, and it may have reduced due to other factors other than the price of the product. So there are two ways, and that's what we mean by shift in demand curves. Shift in demand curve. So with that, we come to the end of our today's class, where we have discussed Number 1, movement along the demand curve. And this was our first illustration. Movement along the demand curve. And a movement along the demand curve is where there were changes in price only. The changes in price only will give us different points along the demand curve.
Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to get yourself a copy of our professionally prepared study text and revision partners. Visit our shop along Tom Boyer Street, Pioneer House, 3rd floor, opposite Fire Station.